You too. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today I'm continuing the destiny readings. So I want to let y'all know to make sure you check the description box for the dates. You may even find some dates on there for some of your loved ones. If you have children, you may find some dates on there for your children. Hey, thanks for joining. You may also find some dates on there for if you have grandchildren. You might find some dates on there for your grandchildren. So definitely make sure you check it out. Whoever's watching, can you thumbs up this video? Hey, Queen B, how you doing? I'm pretty good. You know what? Let me go ahead and get started on yours because I realized that I had read that one last year. And I was going to ask you, are we connected on Facebook? Because I was going to just tag you in that video. Hey, Jazzy. How you doing? But yes, Queen B, I was going to ask you, are we connected on Facebook? Because I was just going to tag you in that video. Hey, how you doing? Okay. Let me type in my name on Facebook for you. That's my name on Facebook. So if you type in Laquana Pollock, you'll definitely find me on there, and we need to get connected because I need to tag you in that video where I read this one at. Because after I got off my live yesterday, I was like, oh man, like I forgot I read this last year. Yours is Bess McCohen. Okay, got you. All right. And as soon as we get connected, I'll be sure to tag you in that video on there because I have like 4 different ones to read today. And I don't want to make this video extra long. So, but since you guys are here, like I was saying before, it may be some dates that are listed to where, you know, your brother, your sister, your mom, your cousin, your uncle, somebody could be born during these times. So by listening to them, you can get a better understanding of them and why, you know, they have the certain characteristics that they have and stuff. Yes. So the first one I'm starting off with today is The Way of Transcendence. And it was interesting to find out that Bella Reese was on this. Oh, wow, Jazzy, you saw a snake? Was that in the spiritual guidance, Jazzy, for April, for Aries? Because I think I told some of y'all to watch out for animals. But yeah, I found out that Della Reese was on this path, the path of transcendence. And so I was like, oh my gosh. Because this path, transcendence. Oh yeah, okay, Jazzy, I'm gonna have to check that out. But this path of transcendence is talks about the people on this path having to push themselves past their own limitations. And being that Della Reese is on this path. Oh, am I showing her? Della Reese. I was just like, oh my gosh, like. So what it says about her, let me go ahead and read about Della Reese real quick. Ordained minister, singer, and television star Della Reese has lived an inspired life. Born on the way of transcendence, she rose above tremendous difficulties through her faith and now attributes her success to God. Reese has in turn provided inspiration to many millions, most recently on her popular television show, Touched by an Angel. Now, we know this book old because Touched by an Angel, does that show even come on still? Probably the reruns. But it talks about her success on the television show, Touched by an Angel. And then it goes on to say it leaves no doubt concerning the power of following one's dreams and visions, because that's what the people on this path have to learn to follow, their dreams and visions. It says, putting her energy in the service of spirituality, this dynamic woman continues to touch the lives of many with hope and love. So that was interesting. So she's one that's on this path. And who else is on here that we know? J. Edgar Hoover, he's on it. Babe Ruth, he's on this path too. So let me go ahead and get started so I won't have y'all on here for forever. But I wanted to get these ones out the way because people have literally been waiting. And I know most people have to watch the replay because they're at work, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now so they can watch the replay. But it says, the people on this path, their south node would be in the Virgo 3 decadent, and their north node would be in the Pisces 3 decadent. And they're going from literalists to dancers and dreamers. So that's what they have to aim for. It says, the destiny of those born to this karmic path is to learn how to transcend limitations, even if this means going beyond what ordinary conceptions of time and space may deem possible. Often, the limits these individuals must transcend exist only within their own minds. Those born to the way of transcendence tend to be hard-headed individuals, firmly rooted in the here and now and the practicalities of daily life. Realists, first and foremost, these sturdy men and women must learn to overcome their innate attachment to the tangible and to develop a belief in the impossible. For without such a viewpoint, none of the individuals on this karmic path would ever challenge their limitations. Their pragmatic orientation would prevent them from making any attempt to do so, and they would be unable to still the little voice in their heads that tells them, it can't be done. It can't be done. It cannot be done. While part of this karmic path is about breaking records or going beyond what anyone else has achieved in a field of endeavor, its underlying truth is that it calls the individual on it to an awakening to and belief in the possibility of miracles and divine intervention. So these people are going to have to learn to trust God. Wow. Ain't that something? Where I was at. Once such beliefs are embraced by these men and women, there's no limit to their soul's growth. In fact, each soul born to the way of transcendence is offered the opportunity for the ultimate transcendence, that of overcoming the cycle of reincarnation itself. Because y'all know, I love this book because it speaks about the fact that, before we incarnate here on earth, on a soul level, we get with our spirit guides and we tell them what it is we would like to learn and grow from. Therefore, we pick our parents and our siblings and all these situations that sometimes we deem as bad or look at as bad to help us grow on a soul level. And so the whole point of being here is to go through those lessons, master those lessons, and grow from those lessons. Because if we don't, then we're going to find ourselves right back incarnated on earth dealing with the same thing. So, you know, the people on this path have to learn that. So that's something. So it's really for the fact that they have to overcome the reincarnation cycle. So it says, if the men and women on this karmic path are to set themselves against limits in whatever form, they must first learn to develop a more positive outlook. And indeed, this is the core lesson of this path. Prone to a debilitating brand of negativity, they are no strangers to depression. The causes of this are two. The first is their steely practicality. They generally know what works and what doesn't, but not always, since they rarely employ the secret ingredient of many success stories, which is faith, having faith. Where am I at, y'all? Every time I look at y'all, I miss where I'm at. Okay, I found my spot. Second, they consider themselves to be infallible. Rarely do they doubt their estimation of what makes sense or is workable. Never questioning themselves, they will rarely try anything new, let alone take a leap of faith now and then. They tend to fall into comfortable grooves of routine. Since repetition or the utilization of proven methods keeps their anxiety to a minimum, thus making them feel safe. Such self-imposed ruts eventually limit their personal growth and inadvertently create the basis of their depression as their souls begin to cry out for change and a more creative approach to life. Wow. Developing the capacity for faith and a positive, hopeful attitude towards the future is the key to success on this journey. The men and women on the way of transcendence will find themselves immeasurably happier when they shake things up a bit and force themselves to take on new projects or goals. Initiating change for more frequently can be essential. So some of the gifts for these people, and you know what, Queen B, you still here? Because if you are, since you've been on here, if you're still here, I'm going to read yours. Well, you know what? After I finish this, I'm going to read yours. Because you're on here and you've been patient. So instead of sending you to Facebook, after I finish the Transcendence one, I'm going to read the Way of Reform. All right? But we can still connect on Facebook, though. So some of the gifts for these people on this path is that the fact that they can be helpful, they're practical, and they learn to be spiritual. But the pitfalls for these people is that they like habit, and which can make them be stuck, and they also can be judgmental. So it says once they start themselves moving in the right direction, their tremendous reserves of willpower become engaged so that they are able to achieve their goals and surmount every obstacle. You're welcome, Queen B. A good plan of action for those on this karmic path may be to stop frequently during the course of their day or week and analyze whether what they are doing makes sense or is merely rote. Such a process can open their minds to new vistas and hitherto unseen possibilities. When tackling a problem or situation, while they would tend to want to apply whatever worked before in a similar situation, they must develop the capacity to forsake the lessons of history in favor of going beyond the limitations of their own experience. This may begin to change their thinking process from the linear and literal to one that is more creative or symbolic, moving from a masculine results orientation to a feminine process orientation. Wow, okay. Inherent in those on this karmic path is a need to be in control. If this trait is not dealt with, it can severely impair their prospects. Fundamentally fearful of anything they can't control, those on the way of transcendence cling to a literal interpretation of life because anything that is clearly defined makes them feel safe and provides them with emotional security. Dividing the world into absolutes is their forte, and this comes with concomitant traits of judgmentalism, argumentativeness, and a tendency to blame or condemn others. Transcending such attitudes requires dealing with their core issues, which could be fear. Placing their trust in a more benevolent and orderly universe will aid those on this karmic path to release their rigidity and need for control and allow them to flow with life. Once the individuals on the way of transcendence overcome their literal mindedness, they will begin to open to their imagination and creativity. Turning their attention to the many varieties of religious or spiritual experience will broaden their perspective and teach them a new outlook. Ultimately, they will learn that there is a way other than sheer strength of will to obtain results, that of engaging in a partnership with the divine. Prayer, intention, affirmation, and visualization will all become methods that those on the way of transcendence can use regularly to help them achieve their goals, many of which, by the way, will remain rooted in the practical and in everyday life. I know, ain't this something? This is something. Blah, 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 blah. What can be expected of these always interesting individuals is the ability to accomplish wonderful things, even miracles, in both their own lives and those of others. Developing the capacity to dream and to believe in those dreams, no matter how impossible they may seem, is the main preoccupation of those on this karmic path. And very often, their dreams are fulfilled. So, one of the things that the people on this path have to do is release the need to control. The reward for them when they do that would be the joy of transcending obstacles. Wow. So, this people on this path are really called to just have faith. Seriously. They really have to have faith. These could be souls that didn't really dib and dab in the spiritual in a previous lifetime. Like it says they're used to being practical all the time. So they probably didn't use a spiritual method to solve their problems. And now in this lifetime, they have to learn about solving problems by having faith, and letting God work things out in their lives. So that's something that really is. Striving to become more sensitive and better attuned to forces greater than themselves will require some hard work and resolve for these wonderfully stubborn, iconoclastic types. Wow. Though there is little likelihood that such well-grounded people will go overboard and become lost in a fantasy world, this should still be guarded against. Once they are fully involved in more spiritual matters, others may begin to see those on the way of transcendence as slightly wacky individuals who have little time to waste on the ordinary tasks of daily life. Although it is true that their heads may be in the clouds a good deal of the time, they also have a practical side that can be good at handling money and getting jobs done. Once they undergo even a single transcendental experience, a fiery brand of I don't know how to say that word, y'all. It's ICONOCLASM. Iconoclasm. I don't know. But it says that may kick in and they may go overboard for a time, causing them to attempt to tear down structures, shock others, or otherwise behave badly, reminding themselves to respect the viewpoints and dreams of their fellows and invoking their usually sound judgment when they pick fights may be necessary. Otherwise, they may forever be tilting at windmills. Making a correct choice of partner can be difficult for those on this karmic path. To begin with, interpersonal relations are not really what this path is about. In fact, relationships may prove to be distractions to the matter at hand, which is their desire to transcend all limitations, whether in their work, lifestyle, or spiritual development. Too often, they will suffer with a mate who is either too strong for them, finding themselves unable to meet such a partner's demands, or latch onto a weak individual whom they can never really satisfy and who drains their energy and holds them back. In fact, becoming another form of limitation. In any event, their relationships frequently become just another thing for them to overcome and release. Those on this karmic path rarely pursue a career for the sake of fame or power, but more often for the opportunity it might present for achieving transcendence. What may be best for those on the way of transcendence is putting themselves in service to a cause, whether organizational or personal. The philosophical fervor of such individuals is so strong that it can carry all before it, and such burning energy should be given an outlet. Constantly going beyond their own personal best or advancing their group's cause is at the heart of their need to transcend. Not only interested in gaining recognition in their own lifetime, they want badly to leave a legacy behind them. Perhaps their greatest desire is that they be granted immortality through the quality or influence of their work. For this to be possible, those on this karmic path must be given the chance to prove themselves, and such a break is usually bestowed on them only by fate and usually unexpectedly. Learning how to invoke fate may be their greatest challenge. A person on the way of transcendence suggests a magician who has studied the forces of the universe and learned the mysterious art of calling things into being. Through a partnership with spirit, visions can be made manifest, amazing all observers. If no one in particular is served, however, such acts are mere sleight of hand. Only when it is placed in the service of a higher cause or greater good does the musician's craft becomes transcendental. Wow, wow, wow. So the suggestion for the people who are on this path is to work to break outworn habits, engage in a spiritual practice or study, and learn how to believe with all your heart and soul. And last but not least, the suggestion is that they learn to trust. And so the crystal recommended for the people who are on this path is rainbow obsidian. Rainbow obsidian brings the individual to the dark core of self-imposed limitations and inspires inner flight. This obsidian brings the light of transcendence into black holes of psychological despair. Rainbow obsidian for the people who are on this path is recommended. And I like this book too because it gives crystals for each individual path. So it's awesome. And I already showed you guys the celebrities that are on this path. You got Della, Reese, you got Babe Ruth, you got Alberta Hunter. She was a blues singer. You got John D. Rockefeller. He's on this path. Ain't that something for him to be on this path? Wow. You got Jesse Owens. He was an Olympic gold medalist. And a few other people that I don't really know like that from back in the day. But yeah, that was an interesting path to read, though. Knowing that, they have to rely on faith and trust God. So let me find the way of reform for you, Queen B. Let me find what page that's on. Because I'm going to go ahead and read that for you, because everybody else who wants their path read, they ain't on here right now. And you on here. So I'm not going to make you wait. 172. Okay, so Queen B, some of the people that are on, some of the celebrities that are on your path would be Beethoven. Beethoven is on here. Henry Ford is on here, the guy who started Ford automobiles. Let's see who else. Let's see if I can find some people we know who's on here. I don't. They got George C. Wallace on here. Let me see who else. They got Bo Derek, the model. Betsy Ross. I don't really see anybody that we would. Yeah, all these other people, I don't really know. Some of these other people you might know. Larry Bird. Yeah. All these other people, I ain't too sure about them. I don't really know them like that. So let's go ahead and get to reading what the way of reform is all about. So, Queen B, on your birth chart, your south node should be on the cusp of Taurus and Gemini, and your north node should be on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius. You're going from energy to revelation. I mean, what is that? Yeah, revolution. Reform came to this lifetime to overthrow established systems and institute new ways of viewing or doing things. I know that's right, Queen B. Okay, I can dig it. On this karmic path, reform has many meanings. In one respect, it represents a revolutionary toppling of existing mores or organizations. However, it can also mean a return to a more traditional approach, sometimes after an extended period of innovation. Moreover, it also implies recreation, an act of creativity that gives something a new or more vital form. The individuals who find themselves on this karmic path will be called to involve themselves in all the aforementioned aspects of reform. In order to do this, they must first deeply involve themselves in the status quo, for only by understanding the traditions of the past and present can they make revolutionary corrections that will be of benefit to all. In this respect, the reformers on this path are both masters of tradition and potent forces for change. Finally, as much as they would prefer otherwise, those on the way of reform must not be content to merely change society, but are also fated to learn how to reform their own moral and value systems. So, the core lessons for the people on this particular path would be committing fully to a cause, project, or even another human being. The goal is to be a catalyst for change. Some of the gifts that the people on the way of reform possess is that they're gutsy, original, and brilliant. And some of the pitfalls could be immoral, compulsive, and flighty. The dynamic individuals on the way of reform are passionately enthusiastic in leading the charge in any of their many causes or battles. Unfortunately, however, their level of energy is so wide ranging and unsettled that it is rare for them to follow through on their endeavors. All too often, they will lead the rallying call for change only to be nowhere to be found when push comes to shove. This is in part due to the wide diversity of their interests. No sooner have they focused their energy on something than some other cause or matter grabs their attention, and off they go in another direction. Thus, the core lesson for the men and women on this karmic path is to involve themselves fully in one cause or project and finish it before going on to the next. These individuals are often accused of an inability to see things through, and this path calls on them to form real commitments. Moreover, before they become involved with any cause, it would be wise for them to set their priorities straight and consciously choose the battles they will fight. All the rewards attendant to having an impact on the world can be theirs as long as they stick to their guns. The struggles that those on the way of reform are fated to undergo are prodigious, since any notion of reform implies going against the status quo. Difficulties and barriers of all type must be surmounted, whether poverty, physical handicap, prejudice, childhood deprivation, or their own deeply ingrained patterns of behavior. Ultimately, the men and women on this karmic path learn not only how to handle opposition, but how to thrive on it, since it is difficult to imagine them achieving their goals without a good fight. Though they do not always win their battles, those on this karmic path are born with the ability to pick themselves up even after back-to-back defeats. I know that's right, dusting them shoulders off and keeping it going, huh? This does not mean that they enjoy such difficulties. On the contrary, they would like nothing better than to have a steady diet of pleasurable experiences and skim over life superficially, but pleasantly. However, if they do, they will not proceed far in their spiritual development and risk living quite a dissipated life. Digging in and taking a stand are essential for them to progress. And by doing so, they will actually free themselves from their flightiness, put down roots, and allow real growth to take place. The primary arenas of the kinds of reforms necessitated by this path may be social, cultural, or political. As revolutionaries, the individuals on this karmic path will home in on the systems, institutions, or modes of thought in society that appear to them to be outdated or, worse, dangerous. Once engaged, they tend to have extreme views, and often they will express a disdain for anything that smacks of the middle way. Developing a more balanced approach will certainly help them to succeed. Part of their task, too, is to learn how to use the arts of war, strategy, and planning to achieve their aims. Too often, they will suffer the consequences of being too hasty and consequently not thorough enough in what they do. On the career path, these individuals are very achievement oriented, but must learn the difficult lesson that quality is to be preferred to quantity. Moreover, they should not allow their work to get out into the world or even be seen by others unless it is of the highest merit. Generally speaking, these individuals' battleground is the world rather than their own individual psyche, though no small amount of reform will always be needed there. Should they be successful in their crusades or otherwise make it to the top, they will have to guard against autocratic tendencies, a loss of humility, and the adoption of an arrogant or haughty attitude can turn others against them and ultimately sabotage their quest for supremacy in their chosen field or endeavor. Cultivating modesty and guarding against Hubris, I don't know, Hubris. Oh, hold on, where was that? Cultivating modesty and guarding against hubris or life lessons they must learn. They will inevitably encounter individuals who represent the projection of their own psychological issues, and by successfully dealing with such people, they will also work out key personal issues. Though not wholly comfortable when engaged in deeper involvement with others, they will find that these experiences will encourage the growth of greater self understanding or self realization, which can occur in sudden epiphanies. Others may view these individuals as versatile and charming, but would generally feel wary of them and have a sense that they are not always to be trusted. This is not surprising, given their anarchist approach to life. Moreover, in relationships, though they are moral, they may have trouble living up to their own or society standards of behavior. To gain the trust of others and to accomplish the metamorphosis required for their evolution, these individuals often take on heavy responsibilities, possibly more than they can handle. If they are not careful, they may prematurely take too much on their shoulders and self destruct. While early in life, they should avoid frivolous people who may distract them from their causes. In later life, once they have formed a commitment to something greater than themselves, it often does these individuals good to attract lighter, more fun loving associates who can seduce them away from their serious dedication. Passions run high in those born to the way of reform, and satisfying their natural desires often entails cataclysmic pairing and tearing scenes. As the lovers of these individuals will attest, such relationships can involve rather large doses of both pleasure and pain. Those on this karmic path can be highly loyal, but not particularly faithful, as they exhibit a considerable inability to commit to one person. When they are finally mature enough to make such a commitment, they may find themselves surprisingly happy and content. Before such an event can occur, a significant reform of their sexual and moral sides needs to occur, as they are capable of deep transformation. This is not entirely out of the question. Until that time, their partners must be extremely understanding and be willing to stick with them despite the tumultuous qualities of their lives. While on an intimate level, they may be viewed by some as cads. On a society level, they want nothing more than to help improve the conditions of their fellow human beings. Because of their intense need to get involved in and reform what they see around them, one of their essential requirements is to actually see the fruit of their labor, and to know that their efforts have had a positive effect. Likewise, satisfying their sensuality with good food and drink, physical companionship, and the joys of art, film, or music will keep them happy. But they will remain healthy only as long as they indulge themselves in moderation. Although this is true for us all, it is particularly true of those on the way of reform, that precisely what they like most may be the worst for them, particularly in large doses. So, one of the suggestions for the people on this path is to work to be less polarized in your viewpoints and don't give in to paranoia. Try to operate within the rest of the world's rules once in a while. In some ways, these individuals can be compared to a biological catalyst, a substance that simply by its presence causes important life functions to occur. Although traditionally a catalyst is not itself changed in the process, the real challenge for those on the way of reform is to break this natural law and allow themselves to undergo a metamorphosis during this process. Thus, by changing others, they will also be changed and perhaps equipped even better to catalyze the environment around them the next time at an even higher level. And one of the crystals that's recommended for the people on this path is ammonite. Ammonite motivates individuals to investigate revolutionary systems that will inspire society to embrace new perspectives. This fossil inspires a return to evolutionary origins as a means of understanding the present. And that is the crystal ammonite. So, wow, that's pretty interesting to know that Henry Ford, Beethoven, and some of these other people are on this path, them having to learn. For Henry Ford to be on it, he definitely created what did it say for him? Typifying the tendency of those on this karmic path to effect change. Henry Ford is credited with both the widespread introduction of the automobile into American society and the implementation of radically new methods for producing cars. So, wow. So, Henry Ford definitely, you can see. Oh, you know who else is on this path too? Etta James. They don't have a picture of her, but they got her name as the first one. If y'all can see it, because my what's the name? But Etta James is on here too. So wow. It really is interesting to know what celebrities are on the path as well. But if you guys want to stay, I'm going to continue to read other ones. The next one I'm going to read is The Way of Freedom. So I want to see who on that path. What celebrity is on that? And what page is that on? 316. I wonder what Cynthia's in. You're welcome, girl. You're welcome. I'm like, you on here. Why make you wait? Because everybody else who wants one, I don't know if they on here or not. Who else is on here that needed theirs read today? We got somebody else on here. Say hey, whoever on here. Oh, well, hi, y'all. Well, maybe some more people who. So, for everybody that's joining, I'm getting ready to read The Way of Freedom now. I had a few people on Facebook who wanted to know whose path was the way of freedom. And if y'all could do me a favor, thumbs up this video for me, all right? So, these algorithms for YouTube can be on point. So, some of the celebrities born to the way of freedom are, got Andrew Jackson. We got, let me find some people we know. We got Tim Allen, the comedian. The fashion designer, Giorgio Armani. He's on this path, which is the way of freedom. Barbara Eden, she's an actress. Let's see who else. We got Frank Sinatra. He's on here. And them the only ones that I know. Oh, you're on this path. This book, Jazzy, is called The Secret Language of Destiny. Helps you find your life purpose, and it is such a dope book. It is so dope. So I would definitely recommend you getting this book. It's definitely dope. So let me read for the people who are on this particular path. The feisty individuals on this karmic path strive to do things their own way. Often, those on the way of freedom come into life with a strict set of standards or codes of behavior to which they feel themselves compelled to adhere. Freeing themselves of such principles, traditions, and modes of thought is the requirement of this karmic path. The individuals here are called to unfetter themselves from societal pressures and to have the courage either to be different or to think differently. Particularly fated individuals, those on the way of freedom, are often required to leave the safety of known quantities behind and strike off on their own, following a path that depends more on learning from experience rather than learning from established educational institutions. The lure of the unusual or exotic is strong, and thus travel and its broadening effect on one's perspective will always entice those on the way of freedom. This karmic path can engender brilliant breakthroughs in thinking, since those following it will learn that they need to not be limited by the way others see things. Such a metamorphosis is not easily accomplished, particularly for these people who like to feel secure within the protective womb of an established system of social philosophy, religion, or family morals. The core lesson for those on the way of freedom is to be true to themselves. Yes, so it says the core lesson for those on this path is being true to oneself by living an authentic life. And the goal would be to experience full freedom. Because I forgot to mention that their south node is in Leo 1 and their north node is in Aquarius 1. So they're going from authority to genius. I forgot to show y'all that. So let me start that sentence over. The core lesson for those on the way of freedom is to be true to themselves. Unfortunately, in order for these men and women to be who they are often forced to make a break with their family of origin or social group. These individuals arrive in this life with a fear of change and are inclined to cling to the rules with which they were brought up. It is interesting that if they are unable to create the inner assurance to believe in themselves enough to find a way to work within the system or their family seems to reject them and spit them out. Certainly, many on this karmic path are able to step into the fullness of their true selves and live authentically without undergoing the trauma of a separation from family, friends, or society. However, if they are unable to achieve such an inner break by truly accepting themselves, their social milieu may create the conditions that will teach them this lesson once and for all. The individuals on this path will have a great respect for tradition, yet will never really feel that it belongs to them. In childhood, they tend to be oddballs or outcasts, frequently wishing or yearning to belong to a club that doesn't want them as a member. Sometimes these men and women spend their whole lives trying to prove themselves worthy of fitting in, often struggling to impress what are really only shadows from the past. A preoccupation with being popular can mark these people for life, when in truth they are loners. It is also their early informative experiences that causes them to be unusually concerned about fairness and other democratic values. They may exhibit a real passion for the downtrodden masses and will often work tirelessly on behalf of those who are less fortunate than themselves. Moreover, as they mature and come to believe in their own right to be free, they will begin to fight for the rights of others. For those on this karmic path, freedom is not a concept, it is a religion. Sometimes the freedom these individuals find is simply a mental one. Breaking taboos and societal norms isn't really up their alley, since they never really rid themselves of their belief in higher principles. They find great joy in liberating their mental processes from having to be used in any particular way or adhering to any system of thought. This enables them to embark on any endeavor with a fresh approach, thereby allowing them to make substantial creative contributions to any field. The best education for them is learning through trial and error. Destiny seems to be their most important educator, and it would usually serve them just the diet they need, but hardly expect. Prematurely being let go from a job or relationship may launch them into unknown waters, but also into new learning experiences. In fact, they seem destined to learn most things pretty much on their own. Because of this, and since they tend to be radical thinkers, they must take great care when presenting their ideas to the world. Thorough preparation and solid presentation are essential for those on the way of freedom. Since when ill prepared, they are easily knocked off their feet and can become frustrated or depressed. More than any other karmic path, this one holds the greatest danger for individuals on it who become stuck or unable to grow. Coming in at authority, those on this path may succumb to the fear of acknowledging the truth of who they are and of what familia or societal disruptions would result were they to truly reveal themselves to others. The result can be a profoundly unconscious or unquestioning adherence to rules or higher principles, accompanied by extreme dogmatism. Projecting their fears and their own shadow qualities onto others, they will often exhibit prejudice and intolerance. Even more troublesome is that they are fairly stubborn, even immovable or domineering when they want to be. Once set on a dogmatic course, they may be unable to awaken to the truth and their soul's calling. One of the things that it says those on the path of those on the way of freedom need to release is the need to be popular. And the reward, once they do that, is the joy of being oneself, the joy of being themselves. The results can be a profoundly unconscious and unquestioning adherence to rules or higher principles, accompanied by extreme dogmatism. Projecting their fears and their own shadow qualities onto others, they will often exhibit prejudice and intolerance. Even more troublesome is that they are fairly stubborn, even immovable, or domineering when they want to be. Once set on a dogmatic course, they may be unable to awaken to the truth and their soul's calling. Although these people possess the capacity to be authority figures or leaders, their karmic journey necessitates breaking away from such tendencies and being free to follow one's own impulses. Leading confers an obligation to those one leads and to the rules of the group. To pursue the way of freedom, those on this karmic path must guard against the temptation to take on responsibility or a mantle of authority. Another pitfall is that the freer these men and women become, the more they show a disturbingly reckless or distracted side. On the whole, however, these individuals are not apt to stray too far outside society's rules. What is perhaps best for them in the long run is finding a healthy balance between freedom and responsibility. Fulfilling set requirements, domestic or otherwise, on a daily basis while leaving large blocks of time free for themselves will help keep them on an even keel. In matters of career, those on the way of freedom usually do best when self employed or working in an independent capacity. They are not really social by nature, though they like to though they like to be well thought of by their colleagues. They need to stay out of the pack in order to keep their thought process in work or career. Often it is here that those on the way of freedom will have to fight to walk to the beat of a different drum. Because of their battles with the world, such individuals usually need to periodically retreat, meditate, and recharge before reemerging into the fray. It may be difficult for those on this karmic path to maintain steady relationships, since it is not human contact they are interested in as much as a given field of study, whether scientific, technological, artistic, or economic. The lives of those on the way of freedom rarely follow a straight line. In fact, it may be many years before they are able to settle down long enough to devote themselves to one field. The choice of an intimate partner can be problematic for them. Although unassuming and stable individuals would seem to be the best for them, they do bore easily and often demand someone who is as unusual as they. Their partner will have to show great tolerance since they have a tremendous need to become involved with other people, frequently the wrong ones, and chaffe at any form of resistance. Sudden, sharp, and somewhat painful breaks in relationships seem to be the norm. For example, those on this karmic path are often forced to cut ties with their relatives in their struggle for freedom. Since fate takes such a strong hand in guiding their experiences, others often see them as flitting from one thing to another, spending their time tasting the pleasures that life has to offer. However, these people rarely allow themselves to be consistently happy since they find contentment in rather boring states. The upside of such instability, however, is that not only do people find them to be fascinating individuals, they also admire their constant searching and refusal to be conventionally satisfied. Because of their nervous tendencies, those on this karmic path are best off avoiding unstable individuals who will feed their own reckless fire. What will benefit those on the way of freedom is grounding themselves with exercise and earthy foods and creating a quiet home base. Like a boat cut adrift, those on the way of freedom must learn to surrender themselves to the flow, trusting that they will arrive at their destination in full possession of who they really are. Wowzers. And the suggestion for the people on this path is to realize when they are replaying old scripts or projecting fears onto others. Also, to embrace who they are, and they will find that others begin to accept them. The crystal that's recommended for the people on this path is Tiger's Eye. Tiger's Eye connects individuals to their power. This stone fosters the courage to be free as its inner light clarifies and brings order to confuse shadowy aspects of the mind. Tiger's Eye is the crystal recommended for anyone on this particular path. So that was the way of freedom. So I have 2 more to do. Oh wow, is this your path, Jazzy? Because I'm about to do 2 more, which is the way of instruction and the way of inspiration. And that is on page 92. And what time is it? Okay, so the next one up is the way of instruction. So I had a few people on Facebook whose path was this. So definitely don't forget to check the description box for the dates to see if any one of these paths are your paths. But let's see some of the celebrities that were born on the way of instruction. The first one to come up is Madonna. Madonna was born on the way of instruction. Look how they got her up here. Madonna. So anybody who was born on the way of instruction, Madonna is on your path too. Who else is on this path? Herbie Hancock. They said that he was a jazz musician. Let's see who else. You got Angela Bassett. So whoever's on this path, Angela Bassett, she's on this path with you too. Where's she at? Got Angela Bassett. Okay, Jazzy, if you just tell me your month and your year of birth, I can let you know for sure which one of the paths you're on, because this book comes with a key and it's listed by the dates, and it tells you based on your birthday what your path is. So that's why the people on Facebook who commented on my post when I was telling them about the destiny readings, that's why their birth information was required so that I could look at the key. Hey, Cynthia. You right on time. I'm getting ready to read yours. Now, ain't that something? So I was just telling them that Angela Bassett is on this path as well. Not only is Angela Bassett on it, but so is Madonna. So you're right on time. I'm getting ready to read it right now. So Cynthia, when you look at your birth chart, and you look at your south node and your north node, your south node should be, oh Lord, but kind of heavy. Your south node should be in Aries 3, and your north node should be in Libra 3. You said it's March 80. Okay, let me look that up real quick for you, Jazzy, so I can tell you what your path is. And I may have read it already on some of the previous videos, or I might already have a video on my Facebook with it up there. But let me see real quick before I read that one. February, March 1980. Yours is the way of confidence. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I read that one. It should be on here on YouTube already. But I'll let you know for sure. Oh no, Cynthia, you right on time. I haven't read yours yet, but I'm getting ready to read yours. Yours is the way of instruction. You are on the same path as Angela Bassett and Madonna. I'm getting ready to read yours right now, Cynthia. I was telling Jazzy that hers is the way of confidence. And I was letting Jazzy know that I think I already did hers and that I'll let her know if it's on here or not. Now I'm finna get ready to show you, Jazzy. Let me show you. Remember how I just showed Cynthia the key, the reference in order for me to find your path? Well, you said you was born March 1980, and for the people born March 1980, I don't know if you can see it. Let me try to see if I can help you see that. But the people born, dang, where's 1980 at? 1980, do you see the dates on here? You said your birthday is in March, so therefore you fall between the dates of April 13th and August 31st, which would make your path the path of confidence, which is right here. Hopefully you can see it. So yeah. And then for Cynthia, hers is the way of instruction, which is the one with Angela Bassett and Madonna. So let me go ahead and read that one. So the people on this path are going from pioneer to theater. Okay. So one of the core lessons for the people that are on this path is discovering that the best leaders are also teachers, and that the best teacher guides a student to the student's own conclusion. The goal is to lead and teach democratically while also considering the feelings of others. Some of the gifts for the people who are on this path is that they are positive, diplomatic, and sacrificing. Some of the pitfalls for the people who are on this path is they can be didactic, self-pitying, and world weary. So let's get started. Those who find themselves on the way of instruction are destined to share or impart some unique expertise or experience with others. You hear that, Cynthia? We need your expertise, girl. We need it, Cynthia. Thus, one finds these individuals acquiring or developing a system of knowledge or a skill early in their lives. Their journey, however, does not stop there. Those on the way of instruction must learn to share their expertise with others. Inherent in the character of these people is a natural leadership ability. They truly have a desire to lead, but must work hard to develop the skills to do so. Rising to the top of a profession or social system may not come easily to them. Once they have arrived, however, and they always do, their mission is to learn how to teach what they know without falling prey to their inborn dic- 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 I'm trying to say this word, y'all. Let me tell y'all how you spell it, though. Didacticism. Dictatism. It might be did. I don't know, but that's the word. The core lesson of the way of instruction is the development of a real desire to share what one knows with others, while allowing them to have their own thoughts, ideas, and theories. Anyone on this path eventually discovers the truth in the well worn saying, knowledge is power. Thus, in their long, hard struggle to become top dog, one of their weapons may be withholding information and keeping what they know to themselves. But it is the destiny of those on this karmic path to overcome this tendency, difficult as it may be. Another problem is that since this journey begins at the pioneer, there exists an ingrained habit of forcing one's ideas on others. Part of the lesson of the way of instruction is to actively encourage students to draw their own conclusions. In other words, not to lecture so much as query, allowing students to formulate their own views. Individuals on this karmic path are prone to be gentle tyrants. It is best for them to keep the attitude that, on any spiritual path, instructors can learn as much, if not more, from their students as their students learn from them. Interestingly, those on the way of instruction have many spiritual lessons to learn. These individuals have a certain fearlessness, one that permits them to attain great heights. It is Is it is it any surprise that many with this configuration become political leaders? Highly idealistic, they are born with a pioneering spirit that, when harnessed, can be transmuted into extraordinary capacity for leaderships. Donning such a mantle, however, does require the development of greater sophistication in the ways of the world. Though these individuals are gifted natural diplomats, they are by nature also rougher, more outspoken types who tend to approach others on a take me or leave me basis and are certainly not willing to change or soften themselves for anyone. If these trench soldiers are to become generals, they must learn more about social niceties or spit and polish. It's lonely at the top, and usually those on this path would rather be surrounded by loved ones. Thus, once they achieve a position of rulership, they are apt to struggle with feelings of loneliness and deprivation. Luckily, their intimacy needs are dependent not on deep connections with others, but rather on numerous ones. They just like to have a lot of other people around them. Thus, there is a danger that people on the way of instruction will surround themselves with sycophants or groupies. These type of people, unfortunately, are unluckily either to stand up to those on the way of instruction or to challenge them to see others' point of view, something that is sorely needed for their development. Those traveling the way of instruction must learn that a certain amount of theoretically should go into the educational process. That is, entertainment can be one of the greatest ways of making a point. Generally serious in outlook, individuals on the way of instruction would do well to learn to take themselves less seriously and to incorporate more playful or expressive qualities in their nature. However, Once the worldliness and success they work so hard to achieve comes to them, they are apt to relax, and the rest of their journey will fall into place. They will master the grand gesture and the ability to command an audience, and ultimately, they will have a desire to share the fruits of their hard won wisdom. Obviously, the arena of life that is most fated for those on the way of instruction involves career or social standing. Meeting of all types, whether business, club, academic, recreational, parental, or other, will acquaint those on this karmic path with the social skills needed to lead such groups. Thus, those on this path are urged to seek out and participate in social organizations of all kinds. However, patience is warranted, as many years of maturing in such contexts may be required before those on this karmic path are ready to exert effective leadership. A major mistake would occur if their natural thirst for idealism and leadership causes them to lunge headfirst into an attempt to take over the reins of power in a group. Doing this before establishing a constituency of support by others will only succeed in making others angry. Alternatively, feeling insecure in their ability to lead, they may lock themselves into a self sacrificing situation of perpetually remaining in the role of foot soldier. Once in a leadership role, they may also become tyrannical, expecting others to blindly, unquestioningly, and loyally follow them to their ultimate goal without ever telling anyone what that goal is. The ability of those on this karmic path to lead and to teach is heavily dependent on how their constituency sees them. The thing that people on this particular path need to release is the need for others. And the reward for them when they do this would be the joy of sharing what they know. Should others see them as wide-eyed idealists or monomaniacal, obviously only the more unstable of their followers will continue to be willing to learn. Thus, it is important for them to express their goals and outline their agenda clearly. Holding back information or being secretive will always engender suspicion and hostility. The best leaders are often those who also serve by squarely placing their support behind others rather than blindly following an ideal at all costs. Strong bonds with leaders of other groups, whether professional, leisure time, or family, will provide them with examples to learn from and identify with and create open channels of communication for learning. Having even one such individual from whom advice can be sought is essential to remaining objective. Because those on this path have little time for personal life, they tend to give up more intimate personal relationships in favor of worldly action. Their lovers, mates, friends, and family members will often suffer from feeling of neglect. Those on the way of instruction who have a strong need for close intimates may periodically suffer from having to sacrifice their relationships to a greater cause. A danger exists here. These individuals are usually gifted with a healthy, if not powerful, sexuality. It is imperative for them to learn to rein in their passion as they adjust to leading a more solitary life. Otherwise, the combination of their lustiness together with a tendency to rationalize could prove to be a lethal combination. Sexual peccadillos are the minefields on this karmic path and could prove to be their undoing. Partners of those on this path must be independent types who can also be flexible. Those on the way of instruction come to a spiritual fruition only later in life. In the meantime, husbands, wives, and lovers will have to learn to live with the absence and workaholic tendencies of their mates. Moreover, these individuals these individuals' inherent idealism means that they expect quite a lot from their partners, given that they feel they themselves are sacrificing so much, and tend to want what they want when they want it. These people do not always know what is best for them. Their drive for success may mean that they neglect their own needs or health. They may wish others to follow them around, attending to their every need, but in fact, this is not what is good for them. They need people who will point out when they are wrong or misguided, and they must learn not to oscillate between their career and personal lives so rapidly. Finding the balance between work and play is key here. Learning to delegate responsibility, to develop others to take on duties, and share power, in other words, to teach what they know, is the way of instruction, is what the way of instruction is all about. It is the key to their long-term success, health, and prosperity. Ultimately, they will discover that the pleasure of sharing knowledge is the real reward. The image that comes to mind for those on this karmic path is a productive fruit tree that stands alone, permitting birds to nestle in its branches, giving shade to animals and humans, shedding its leaves to fertilize the ground below, and ultimately giving freely of its yield for all to enjoy. The suggestion for the people on this path is to be open to all ideas. Anyone could prove useful. Assuage feelings of loneliness by developing a relationship with spirit. Oh, wow. And one of the oh no, this ain't carnelian. I thought this was my carnelian, but it's not. But one of the crystals recommended for the people on this path is carnelian. Carnelian activates the mind and stimulates initiative that can lead an individual to positions of power. This regal stone inspires openness, patience, and clear communication. So the crystal recommended for the people who are on the way of instruction is carnelian. Carnelian. Wow. So Madonna, Angela Bassett, Walter Houston, Herbie Hancock, Al Pacino, all those people are on this path. So isn't that something? Wow, wow, wow. Okay, last but not least, guys, we got The Way of Inspiration. This is the last one I'm reading today. The Way of Inspiration. So let's see what celebrities are on this path and what their lessons is. 204, 204. Bill Cosby. You're welcome, Cynthia. And yeah, girl, we rewatch it just in case, you might have missed something. But one of the people on the path of inspiration, we got Bill Cosby, who's on this path. We got Morgan Freeman, who's on this path. Morgan Freeman. And who else do we know that's on this path? I know who Mel Gibson is. Mel Gibson's on this path. Robert E. Lee was even on this path. Henry Watt's first Longfellow. all them historical figures. But let's see what Bill Cosby and Morgan Freeman, the ones we know, let's see what their lessons are and what they came here to learn. So, on anybody who is on this path, whoever watches the replay or who's just interested in knowing about the celebrities and their path, on their birth chart, their south node would be in Gemini 2, and their north node would be in Sagittarius 2. They're going from new language to originator. So that is what will be on theirs. And what time is it? 1:26. Okay. The core lessons for the people who are on the path of inspiration is developing a means of communicating directly with spirit. The goal is to operate from an authentic source of inspiration. Those on the way of inspiration are here to use their naturally expressive energies to give rise to a unique form of creativity. I almost couldn't read it because I'm sitting up here thinking about Morgan Freeman. And y'all know how they always have Morgan Freeman playing God or something in a movie. He always the voice of God on a movie. He has a documentary out that investigates all of the religions and stuff like that. So this is crazy to read the first sentence, to read the core lesson of the people on this path, and to see that Morgan Freeman, you know, they always got him playing God or the voice of God in a movie. And this path that the people who are born to this path is on is for them to develop a direct relationship with spirit. That's crazy. Let me start over. Those on the way of inspiration are here to use their naturally expressive energies to give rise to a unique form of creativity. The individuals born to this karmic path are gifted with a facility of mind that manifests itself in a quick wit, the enjoyment of language and technical proficiency. It is their task to put these skills to some extraordinary and productive use, to put their ideas into action so that they may contribute something original to the world. Well, Bill Cosby, he's on this path. I could see where he did that in his life. They must learn to hear their inner voice of inspiration, their intuition, and to act upon it. When it speaks to them, they know it in their hearts. And it is for this they truly live. Feeling spirit moving through them, they become their most authentic and are best able to ignore their ego's demands. To accomplish this rather lofty aim, the men and women on the way of inspiration must learn how to become a channel for ideas or creativity that is greater than themselves. This level of inspiration comes from only one place, but they must learn how to communicate directly with the divine. Ultimately, they will never feel fully satisfied or happy until they find a way to do so. Gifted as they are, they may churn out all they know over and over again, doing everything the same old way. However, it is their fate to express new or possibly untried approaches, whether it in the arts, politics, education, or even simply everyday tasks, for example. When fixing the plumbing or mending an article of clothing, a truly inspired thought is the one never before experienced. The trouble is that those on the way of inspiration tend to be very restless, hardly able to contain themselves, much less sit still. They have a tremendous need for physical activity. For those on this path, beginning as they do with Gemini 2 energy, there appears to be a direct correlation between satisfying their need for physicality and staying quiet long enough for their minds or hearts to be filled with creative information. If they are ever to open themselves to the inspiration that can be their destiny, they must learn to center and ground themselves, that is, to be quiet. Whatever their inspirational process may be, whether meditation, prayer, walking in nature, or simply quiet contemplation before embarking on a project, it is important for them to find one. Sometimes this may require setting up routines or set times for exercise programs such as jogging, swimming, yoga, or Tai Chi to help them stay centered or when they need to break through their creative blocks or barriers. Given that those on this karmic path have a tendency to bore easily and never stick to anything, a danger exists that they may be content merely to copy others or otherwise be derivative in their thinking. Brilliant at imitation. I can definitely see that. Can y'all see that in Bill Cosby? Being brilliant at imitating people? I can see that in him. Brilliant at imitation, they may take this route rather than digging to find or express true originality. Though it can be argued that much of the creative process lies in derivation, should those on the way of inspiration engage in their talent for imitation only to produce a derivative end result, they will suffer from it as their inner voice will always whisper the truth. A pitfall here is the innate confidence that those on this path have in their ability to express themselves in writing, speech, or body movement. Because of this facility, they may opt for the path of least resistance and be satisfied with their most superficial efforts, which, it should be noted, usually impresses others, or spend more time talking about what they could do with some of their more inspired ideas rather than actually putting them to some productive use. A good strategy could be initiating a project using ideas from other sources and then formulating a new way to use them, look at them, or present them so that imitation becomes the springboard for unique contribution in a field or creative endeavor. Unfortunately, because they have such a strong need for recognition, these individuals may revel in their more obvious talents and not really push their striking originality to its outer limits out of fear of rejection. Their greatest fear is that their unusual personalities will be unpalatable to others or will be written off as peculiar. Thus, those on the way of inspiration often wrap their true feelings inside elaborate deceptions that frequently involve not telling the truth or stretching it beyond acceptable limits. Their attempts to craft the way others view them are based in a deep seated sense of chronically being misunderstood or unfairly criticized. In this way, their talent for dissembling can work against their gaining greater artistic rewards. Taking gambles and daring to fail are vital if these individuals are to reach the peak of their creative expression. The men and women on this karmic path face the task of learning to trust their inner genius enough to present themselves to the world as they are. Career and romance are the two main areas in which the life lessons of this karmic path are likely to play out. In both areas, the individuals here can be tremendously inspirational to others, colleagues and lovers alike. Even though at work, due to their confidence and love of freedom, they may have great difficulty dealing with powerful individuals whom they perceive as wanting to make decisions for them or control them. To be successful, they must learn the lessons of compromise and cooperation. Rejection is extremely difficult for these men and women to handle, as are most forms of criticism. So, what needs to be released for the people on this path is the need for recognition And the reward would be, once they do that, is the joy of channeling original ideas. Both rejection is extremely difficult for these men and women to handle, as are most forms of criticism. Both of these facts indicate that their self-confidence may not run as deep as they think it does. When those on the way of inspiration are able to let bouts of envy and other negativity slip away without provoking a reaction, they will know they have come a bit further in their spiritual journey. A curious blend of introvert and extrovert, those on this karmic path often lead an incredibly private, personal life, while at the same time shamelessly flaunting their ideas, talents, clothes, or good looks before the world. Not surprisingly, others often do not see those on the way of inspiration as they really are. Many view them as wholly unique characters, entertaining and lively, if not complete originals. As gregarious as they appear to be, these individuals may possess a dark, moody side, one that is readily apparent to the friends, families, and lovers who successfully penetrate their shield. They have tumultuous personalities, and their feelings cry out for expression. One challenge of their soul journey is to learn to control their very short emotional fuse and tendency to explode in anger. Should their energies be fretted away in egotistic and indulgent displays of emotion, they will lose a marvelous opportunity for insight and self discovery. Socially, those on this karmic path frequently make a strict separation between their public and personal life. Such a split is not objectionable in itself, but it may be prompted by fear or shame, a desire to hide a secret life, or an inability to make a connection between personal and social matters. Not infrequently, those on the way of inspiration attract and are attracted to troubled individuals who may be projections of the emotional elements of their own internal struggle. Passionate feelings are no strangers to those on this path, and by grappling with the problems of their stormy lovers, those on the way of inspiration frequently become sidetracked from their creative endeavors. Wowzers. Although inspiring to others and inspired by them in turn, these individuals must learn that what is best for them is a steady dose of self inspiration. The process of looking inward for such a source and ultimately finding it is the real reward of this karmic path. Neither rejection nor recognition is sufficient to give into the life, to give meaning to life, since they come from outside and not from living, vital source within. Feeling peculiar, misunderstood, irresponsible, or disorganized may be the product of old scripts that have been playing since childhood. Rooting out this negativity, much like weeding a garden, is essential to health. Flatterers, hangers-oners, and admirers are the worst kind of companions for those on this karmic path. Much like Hans Christian Arden's ugly duckling, what these individuals really need is to find an accurate self-image. As long as they rely on the observations and values of others, they are likely to flounder. However, by unlocking their internal mystery, freeing themselves in peace and quiet to hear the call of their spirit, and finding out who they really are, they will succeed in allowing their creativity to be fully, rather than only partially expressed. Paradoxically, whether those on the way of inspiration finally forget about trying to achieve popularity and success and begin to look within, it is precisely at this time that they begin to truly inspire others to admire them. But by then, it's too late, and their unique creative achievement is all they really need. Wow. So, the suggestion for the people on this path is to actively develop physical routines to help you center and ground yourself. Make time for quietude. The crystal recommended for these people is apophyllite. Apophyllite clears the channels of receptivity and allows the individual to tap into high realms of inspiration. This crystal leads one to experience the unspeakable. Apophyllite. Well, that concludes all the readings that I'm doing today. I thank whoever you are for staying on the whole time. You've been rocking with me for an hour and 40 minutes now. Thank you to everybody that watches the replay. I'll be back tomorrow. I think tomorrow is going to be my last day doing this because I have to get my May monthlies out. I have to. May is approaching very quickly. So peace, love, and light to you all. And I will catch you guys tomorrow. Hopefully I can make it at 11:30. But catch you guys tomorrow. Peace, love, and light.